Ladies and gentlemen, this is really interesting news, and it actually adds a layer of intrigue to the Inspector General report that's coming out. By the way, on H.A. Goodwin's other channel, check out what I read. I'm going to periodically, actually every day, I'll find a news article that I'd rather not read on this channel, but I will find a news article from a reputable source completely shedding a giant spotlight on corruption from a whole bunch of unsavory characters linked to the Democratic Party. Anyway, check out H.A. Goodwin's other channel. It's growing, and I've been kind of thinking about my next segment. And so, check it out. It's almost at 10,000 subs. Tell your friends about it, and check out the segment below, the latest one on H.A. Goodwin's other channel. William Barr is going to declassify information pertaining to revelations, recommendations for prosecution, recommendations to indict certain people. The Inspector General report is going to be a roadmap. John Durham has to connect a whole bunch of legal dots in a kind of criminal legal puzzle. If you notice that people, when they talk about the Inspector General report and they talk about the FISA allegations, which is, of course, linked to violations, they deceived the FISA judges. They used a dossier purchased by Clinton. They used gossip from a person loyal to the Clinton Foundation and Alexander Downer. CrowdStrike was outsourced by the Democratic Party. You have Comey being published in the New York Times, the Washington Post. Clapper and Brennan are on CNN and MSNBC all the time. They're not hiding anything. It was a setup, and it's completely overt. Now, from a criminal justice perspective, John Durham has to say, well, they wanted to set up President Trump, and here's why they wanted to set up Trump, and here's how they set up President Trump and everyone around him. From the media's perspective, from the Democratic Party's perspective, it's, well, we didn't know, we can't be held accountable, we had no intent, we had no motivation to harm or undermine Trump's administration because we were working to protect national security. First of all, the DNC can allegedly be hacked from now until eternity. That's not national security. The DNC is a private entity. We learned that from the DNC fraud lawsuit that Jared Beck, Elizabeth Beck, and Nico House waged, which was a noble thing, very noble. Because you can't expect Bernie Sanders to stick up for his voters, because his voters are going to vote for Clinton 2020. That's right. 3 minutes in. Check out my last segment. She's raised, it's $50,000 a plate for fish, cold fish, and wine that isn't even good. $50,000 a plate. Is there a meal worth $50,000 on the planet? Okay, so, and do you think Elizabeth Warren, anyway, check out the last segment. Okay, she's obviously running, and today's news is the biggest confirmation that I've been right since 2017. She's going to run. But anyway, she purchased her own Russian hacking myth. But what has to take place is John Durham has to explain from the IG report, okay, there was intent to deceive, there's intent to utilize the United States government to set up and frame President Trump. That is illegal under 18 U.S. Code 371, the statute that I talk about. That is illegal. That is a major criminal offense. You go to prison for that type of criminal offense and legal violation. And it's something that undermines the long-term health prospects of any country, especially our country. The media, the Democratic Party, and corrupt intelligence officials formed a brief, possibly a part of a long-term type of alliance or understanding with one another. President Obama's administration and President Bush's administration were two sides of the same coin. And then when you got President Obama's administration, he came into office saying, well, we're going to be completely different. But the people of Libya, like the people of other countries that Bush adversely affected, that's an understatement. But if you look at foreign policy and you look at the way both presidents dealt with the intelligence community and the way they implemented their foreign policies, very similar. Now, President Obama prosecuted more people under the Espionage Act than any other president, just like he deported more human beings than any other president, just like he drilled and expanded domestic oil and gas production, more so than any other president. That's the enigma, and that's the grand irony of President Obama's administration. What he did towards the latter half was utilize very corrupt, very corrupt and loyal people. From Loretta Lynch, speaking about golf, Brexit, and grandchildren, with Bill Clinton 2 days before Hillary Clinton was interviewed by Peter Strzok, who said we will stop Trump, who worked underneath Andrew McCabe, who threatened Sessions with a criminal case. Sessions was an abomination, but there's a reason that he completely sold out. It's because Andrew McCabe started a criminal investigation into any alleged perjury, which he had every right to speak to Sergei Kislyak, but there was no coordination between the Trump campaign and Russia. It never happened. The Mueller report states categorically there was no endeavor to conspire with a foreign country. The examples they use are completely nullified by the fact that Mueller doesn't know who Glenn Simpson and Fusion GPS are. And the examples they use didn't lead to indictments. So they say, oh, well, the Trump Jr. meeting, and there was nothing illegal. There was nothing illegal. So you have to understand, ladies and gentlemen, why did this take place? How did this take place? It's not just the fact that Andrew McCabe signed off on a FISA application promising that it would be verified and the Steele dossier was intelligence. Nothing in the Steele dossier, absolutely nothing, is verified. And when they say, well, some things are, nothing is, because the entire theme of the dossier is that a campaign and a country were working together. Since that didn't happen, nothing is verified. Since nobody was indicted on working with a foreign country to interfere in the election, any contacts that they had with Russia, becoming a foreign agent, any campaign finance violation, nothing is verified in the Steele dossier. But it's not just that Andrew McCabe signed off on it and other FBI officials signed off on it. It's the classified information that serves as the basis for all of this. And that's why I'm going to play this Lindsey Graham clip. So Lindsey Graham is somewhat of a political opportunist. His bark is bigger than his bite, but it's good that Lindsey Graham is in between the establishment Republican world and the Trump world. The Trump world has people like me, who the Washington Post called the biggest Bernie Sanders booster. Biggest Bernie Sanders booster on the internet. That's the Huffington Post. The Washington Post called me the unofficial scribe of Sanders' most hardcore voters. Yeah, I like a great economy. I like record low unemployment. I like record low Black Latino unemployment. I like prison reform, criminal justice reform, First Step Act. I like the beginning of peace between North and South Korea. President Trump's the first president to step foot in North Korea. I like the fact that he wants to bring home Americans from Afghanistan. Bring home American soldiers to their families. I like that. I want that in a president. I like the fact that he's going after Comey, Strzok, McCabe, Clapper, Brennan, all of them. Love that. I was the biggest booster on the internet for a man who speaks like this and says, if you say a derogatory word about Deborah Wasserman Schultz, you'll have a knuckle sandwich to deal with. But here's Graham. He talks about declassifying a lot of documents. Check it out.
What would be ugly and damning is if you could prove that the document they used to get the warrant, without which there would be no warrant, was not verified until later, that they put no effort into verifying the document before they gave it to the court. They panicked. Hey, we got to figure out if this thing actually is true. I want the chart disclosed to the public. I want to tell the truth, nothing but the truth. I want to tell the story. I want to declassify everything that we can declassify so the story tells itself.
I want to declassify everything we can declassify so the story tells itself. Now, this is an interview on Hannity a couple hours ago. Look, is Lindsey Graham legit? I don't know. I don't really think so. I think he's more of an opportunist. He hasn't really... Paul Sperry is right about Lindsey Graham. However, it's very good to have Senator Lindsey Graham on Trump's side. Because when the political momentum completely shifts after the IG report, then you'll get, going into 2020, going into the 2020 elections, not just for the executive branch, but also for Congress, you'll get Lindsey Graham and others saying, hey, we got to declassify all of this to prove not only intent and motive, but to prove that people were actually working, bending over backwards to hurt and undermine and sabotage and ruin President Trump's administration. It's not just what we find out from the IG report, ladies and gentlemen. It is the underlying classified data that they classify to hide. A lot of the time, most of the time, they classify information to hide their actions. This has nothing to do with national security. The DNC being hacked has nothing to do with national security. The average American is not an imbecile like the Democratic Party or the intelligence chiefs. These people are not the smartest people in the room. And if they're telling the truth, they're completely inept. When Mueller's like, huh? Glenn Danzig? What? I love the Misfits. No, Glenn Simpson. Simpsons? I like South Park. No, Glenn Simpson. Fusion GPS. Fusion reactor? What? Where? No. So he didn't know who Fusion GPS and Glenn Simpson were, and we were supposed to... This guy demanded the utmost respect for 2 years. Oh my God, it's Mueller time. Mueller. Oh my God, Mueller's so important to American democracy. He didn't even know the two biggest... The 15, the 10 commandments, anyway. The two biggest players in this whole thing, Fusion GPS, and Bruce Orr's wife, Nellie, worked at Fusion, which is another hilarious conflict of interest, and Glenn Simpson, who met before and after with Natalia Veselnitskaya. But conversations that he had with FBI and DOJ and State Department officials are classified. Why are they classified? There's conversations, there's emails, there are meetings that Comey and McCabe and other people, Bill Priestap. Nobody knows who Bill Priestap is. Nobody knows who that guy is. The only reason people know who that person is because he was Peter Strzok's boss. And if I know who he is and you know who he is, John Durham does as well. You have these people like Sally Moyer and Kevin Kleinsmith, I believe his name is. Who would know who these mid-level FBI agents were? Because they were a part of this wide-ranging effort to undermine Trump's administration. Now, Democrats and liberals and people on the left and media in general, they are totally fine with the narrative not making any sense at all, as long as it's an official narrative they can get behind and say, well, the intelligence community feels this way. If Comey tomorrow, just like he did with the Comey letter, if tomorrow he said, you know what, President Trump was right, we did try to set him up, but I didn't. Could you imagine if Comey says, but I didn't? It was really Andrew McCabe. Sorry, buddy, had to do it. Oh my God, they would say he's a traitor. They would never, they don't have, right now they love Comey. But it's like that whole thing, he loves me not, They love him. Soon they'll dislike him because he has the goods on everyone. And Comey will probably in a moment's notice, give everything Trump wants and link it all to you-know-who, the Golden Muumuu, who's running again. And it's going to be a repeat of 2020. The same criminal investigations. Look, we've had a very good 2017, 2018, 2019, generally for the country in aggregate has been good. There have been some horrible tragedies, of course, but there are always horrible tragedies. Not to mitigate them, because the horrible tragedies are just horrendous. But for the country in general, in aggregate, you had the same tragedies taking place under Obama's administration. But Democrats were like, oh, everything's sunny and wonderful. Now we have an even better economy, we have an even better foreign policy, and we're cleaning up the intelligence community. Which, by the way, exists for one purpose: to protect American lives. DNC servers have nothing, absolutely nothing to do with American lives. So give me your thoughts below. They're going to declassify as much as they can, and William Barr is going to declassify. At this point right now, Democrats will be on the defensive from here on out. President Trump has stolen the ball away. He's on fast break, and you see Trump with the reverse Sean Kemp jam. And it's now just a matter of how much media insanity they're going to pull, simply to try to regain political influence and power and regain the White House. Now, Clinton is going to be it's going to be a repeat of 2020. She will lose again, but it'll be even more divisive, more chaotic, not because of Trump, because of Democrats. And the Democrats and the media understand this. This is why you need to get off Twitter and get off Facebook. They have to make everything as chaotic as they have to promote as much mayhem. They have to sensationalize as much as they can from here until November of 2020. Because they're going to be selling and trying to market and trying to introduce a revamped Madam Secretary Clinton 2020. Not only is she running again, all of this was theater and a farce. Give me your thoughts below. Check out H.A. Goodwin's other channel right this second. Thank you.